reporter there that's on the scene in the Northwest Province, and he unfortunately is at a school that's actually been burnt down. It was burnt down on Friday, and that was one of the IEC voting stations. So we'll find out from the IEC what contingency plans they do have in place for us, and that should be quite a difficult issue for them to get around. But hopefully we'll get everything we need in a short while from our reporter Tsepiso there, who is on the scene. But right now, let's move our attention to a book. And this book is quite an interesting one because I've got it here next to me. It's a book that's been written by Jan-Jan Joubert. And Jan-Jan wrote this book, Who Will Rule in 2019? And this book basically talking to the future of South Africa and where the author predicts things will go. The ANC received a bloody nose in the 2016 elections, as it says. This is the local elections, when it lost 3 major metros to the opposition. Will the fractured ruling party be able to reunite under Cyril Ramaphosa and gain a majority at the polls in 2019? That's the million-dollar question. Well, let's chat to the author, Jan-Jan Joubert, who's in our Sea Point studios. Jan-Jan, thanks so much for joining us and welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we talked to the million-dollar question about whether or not Cyril Ramaphosa can unite the ANC and be the face of unity in the party, and how are the ANC going to do in these elections? Talk to us about some of the issues that you look towards in this book.
Well, as far as the ANC goes, it is clear that it ran completely and utterly on the personality of Cyril Ramaphosa, who of course is its leader. One would almost say that there's no disunity about him in the ANC, the way they've run their campaign. But of course, that is why David Mabuza at the Deputy President David Mabuza at the Nasrec conference of the ANC backed Ramaphosa and handed him victory through those votes that he controlled from Mpumalanga, because he said Cyril Ramaphosa is the closest thing to a dead cert for the ANC to win the election. It is the reason why he backed him, and it looks as if that plan might have worked. At the moment, it seems from polls and also I think from how people talk that Mr. Ramaphosa might see the ANC home, despite there being almost no policy debate from the ANC side in this whole election campaign.
You know, it's quite interesting if we have a look at South African politics. I alluded to it in the very opening of the show, our first broadcast from the operations center here. You know, when you walk around and you see the different tables and you see the amount of new political parties that have come up. I mean, if we just do a comparison between 2014 and these elections, we've come a very, very far way. And obviously, I imagine this is what led you to write this book.
Actually, no. Look, I mean, anybody can start a political party, and these days just about anybody does. I mean, we've got 47 or 48 parties on the ballot this year. The ballot's going to start looking like a telephone directory one of these days. But we had 29 on the national ballot parties in 2014. So what actually prompted me to write the book was that the 2016 local government elections were very, very important for South Africa, in that it unseated the governing party, the Liberation Movement, in a peaceful manner through a coalition between people who were not ideologically coherent, but who believed that clean governance had to take precedence. So we saw the ANC fall from 62% to 53% between 2014 and 2016. Now, in the whole parliamentary history of South Africa since 1910, we have never had anything like that. So what prompted me to write the book was to ask the question, will the opposition unity hold? Will the ANC dip below 50 in some provinces and nationally, or will Mr. Ramaphosa be able to unite the ANC, at least in the eyes of the voters, so that they vote ANC again?
You know, no matter who you talk to, everybody's trying to predict what's going to happen after the elections on Wednesday and when these results start coming in. I suppose the question is, I mean, is it possible to actually project South African election results?
Yes, under certain circumstances. I did project them correctly in 2016, and I don't think many people did, simply by doing statistical exercises. But it was easier than it is this year because there were not so many new parties. There wasn't a party like Good or the ATM or many other parties that are actually coming into the fray and which might take local votes and therefore upset the apple cart. The easy thing in 2016 was that basically all the parties that participated that mattered also participated in 2014. So what I did was basically take the history of each polling district and extrapolate it from 2014 to 2016, having taken its history since 1999 in that treasure trove called the IEC website where everything is kept. And basically by doing that, because South Africans are so brand conservative and don't easily change their tea or their washing powder or their political party, if you looked at the registration statistics for 2016, you could see what was going to happen, and it was possible to project the result quite correctly. This year is more difficult because of the ANC being a different animal from 2016. It's no longer the Zuma party. B, the DA having lots of problems internally and making themselves, at least on a personal level, very unlikable, although still effective. And the EFF and the DAs working together in the city councils seem to be holding, but there's no love lost. So I would say that the opposition grouping, the cooperation there is not as strong as it was in 2016. We'll have to see. It's going to be fascinating if any of the majority parties dip between below 50% in any jurisdiction to see whether there will be coalitions or cooperative governances.
Yeah.
But for the moment, I think it is very, very tough to predict this year.
This one is going to be a very tough one to predict. But finally, Jan-Jan, and I ask you very, very quickly, in this election, what is it that you're looking out for? That key thing, that one thing that these elections in 2019 are sort of got your attention for. What are you looking for?
Turnout in different communities, and because that's going to be what makes the difference. If the DA court turns out in the Western Cape and it rains as much as is predicted, the DA might keep the Western Cape quite easily. If Good turns out its people, if the ANC turns out the Gugulethu, Langa, Nyanga and Crossroads vote, then that will perhaps clinch it for them. So I will be looking at differential turnout, which communities vote, which communities don't.
Right, we'll leave it there. JJ, thank you very much for talking to us. Jan Joubert wrote a book, Jan-Jan Joubert, Who Will Rule in 2019. Fascinating read. Maybe it's a good read to do before you go and vote on Wednesday. Who knows? Might be some predictions in here, but as you heard Jan-Jan saying, this is a tough one to call. All right, we take a break. When we return, we'll have a catch-up with the IEC to see things how they're going ahead of these special votes. Stay tuned.